Israel's actions in Gaza spark global outcry. Prominent Jewish voices demand accountability.
In a bold and emotionally charged move, hundreds of influential Jewish figures from around the world are uniting to call on the United Nations and global leaders to take a stand against Israel's actions in Gaza. But here's where it gets controversial. They're not just calling for dialogue, they're demanding sanctions, labeling Israel's conduct as nothing short of genocide. This isn't a fringe movement, it's a coalition of 460 signatories, including former Israeli officials, Oscar-winning filmmakers, renowned authors, and intellectuals, who have penned an open letter that's impossible to ignore.
The letter that's shaking the world.
The letter, released as EU leaders gathered in Brussels, comes at a critical juncture.
Reports suggest the EU may shelve proposals for sanctions over human rights violations, despite mounting evidence of atrocities. The signatories pull no punches, reminding the world that the very laws and conventions designed to protect humanity, many born out of the horrors of the Holocaust, are being flagrantly violated by Israel. They write, "We do not forget that so many of the laws, charters, and conventions established to safeguard and protect all human life were created in response to the Holocaust. Those safeguards have been relentlessly violated by Israel."
Among the notable names are Avraham Berg, former Speaker of the Israeli Knesset, Daniel Levy, a former Israeli peace negotiator, British author Michael Rosen, Canadian author Naomi Klein, and Oscar-winning filmmaker Jonathan Glazer. These aren't just voices, they're voices with weight, credibility, and a shared commitment to justice. Demands that go beyond words.
The signatories aren't just expressing outrage, they're laying out clear demands. They urge world leaders to 1. Uphold rulings from the International Court of Justice, ICJ, and the International Criminal Court.
2. Halt arms transfers and impose targeted sanctions to avoid complicity in international law violations.
3. Ensure Gaza receives adequate humanitarian aid.
4. Reject baseless accusations of anti-Semitism against those advocating for peace and justice. And this is the part most people miss: the letter doesn't just focus on Gaza. It highlights the ongoing settler violence in the West Bank and the unaddressed conditions of occupation, painting a broader picture of systemic injustice. A shift in public opinion.
This call for action isn't happening in a vacuum.
Public opinion, particularly among U.S. Jews and the broader American electorate, has shifted dramatically in recent years. A Washington Post poll reveals that 61% of U.S. Jews believe Israel has committed war crimes in Gaza, with 39% going further to say it's committing genocide. Among the general American public, 45% share this view, according to the Brookings Institution.
These aren't just numbers, they're a reflection of growing disillusionment and a demand for accountability. Solidarity, not betrayal.
One of the most powerful statements in the letter challenges a deeply ingrained narrative: our solidarity with Palestinians is not a betrayal of Judaism, but a fulfillment of it. The signatories invoke the teachings of Jewish sages, emphasizing that the sanctity of life knows no exceptions, not even for Palestinians. They vow to fight for a ceasefire that leads to an end to occupation and apartheid.
The human cost. Since October 7, 2023, the toll has been devastating.
Gaza's health ministry reports at least 65,000 Palestinians killed and over 167,000 injured. The UN estimates that 90% of Gaza's population is internally displaced. U.S. Democratic Senators Chris Van Hollen and Jeff Merkley, after a fact-finding mission, concluded that Israel is implementing a systematic plan to destroy and ethnically cleanse Palestinians from Gaza, with U.S. complicity. Their report details the near-total destruction of civilian infrastructure, the weaponization of food, and deliberate obstacles to humanitarian aid. Ceasefire violations and unaddressed issues. The October 10 ceasefire has been fragile at best, with repeated violations.
Palestinian sources claim Israel has breached the agreement 80 times, killing at least 80 Palestinians in just 11 days.
Meanwhile, the Israeli military accuses Hamas of violations, including the killing of 2 soldiers in Rafah. The letter points out that the truce ignores the West Bank, where settler violence continues unchecked. For instance, a 55-year-old Palestinian woman was hospitalized after being attacked by a masked settler while picking olives, an incident caught on video. Accountability in question. Despite the evidence, accountability remains elusive.
The Israeli civil rights group Yesh Din found that only 3% of investigations into settler violence between 2005 and 2024 led to convictions. Meanwhile, the EU, despite its diplomatic service finding indications of Israel breaching human rights obligations, appears reluctant to impose sanctions. The ICJ is set to issue a new ruling this week, but will it change anything? A call to action and to reflection. This isn't just a political issue, it's a moral one. The signatories ask, how can we claim to uphold the values of justice and humanity while turning a blind eye to such suffering? And they invite us to ask ourselves the same question. Is solidarity with the oppressed a betrayal of one's identity, or is it the very essence of it? As the world watches, the choices made by leaders and by us will define not just the future of Gaza and the West Bank, but the integrity of our shared humanity. What do you think? Is the call for sanctions against Israel justified, or does it cross a line? Are accusations of genocide warranted, or are they an overreach? Let's keep the conversation going, because this is one debate the world can't afford to ignore.